Hello. Today I'm out in a park and I found this little hut that I can sit in. So I brought my friends in and we're going to make a Dimple Dongle. So this is the Universal Dimple Dongle 2.0. This is a half bird, half fish. So if you flip this over, you'll see the fish and then you'll see the bird. The idea here is that this is the universe itself. So I'm going to explain that. Let's get started. So I like to keep some paper plates so that I can color. I like the circular nature of them, kind of creates things in an even balance like pi. And so that's like kind of where it starts. It's like, let's say that pi is the center of the universe, just for sake of talking, okay? So then what I want to illustrate here is that there must have been some type of energy emanating from the center of the universe as it started, as it began. So just think back with me a long time ago when all of this started and there was pretty much nothing, but we have something now. So we're going to talk about how we got there. So the idea is that maybe pi is sort of cruising along in life and just sort of wants to have this duality of nature. Okay, so there's like a wave. It's like saying, when you start here, it might be 0, but then you start to go down, it might be like -1, and then you start to go up, it might be 0 again, now it's +1, now you go down and it's 0 again. And so this kind of balance of nature exists all over the place. And the reason I'm saying pi is because there's a curvature here, like 3.14 is kind of the curvature of pi that allows us to complete a circle. And what you can think about there is that as a pendulum swings, the middle point might be the point of no return, where it starts to come back to where it came from. So a pendulum swings back and forth, or like a clock ticking. You can just imagine that there's time that it takes to go back and forth between this harmony. The universe always balances itself out. You'll see with some of my other videos I've been talking about that, and this is what I'm illustrating today. So let's get started. So as pi is emanating back and forth from these different points of nature, let's say that it's vibrating almost, it's actually going to maybe create some type of energy flow. So let's put some spirals here because I like the way that looks in the galaxies, in the observable universe. But essentially we have circles and spirals and Fibonacci sequence all over, and we can observe that naturally here on Earth. So I've observed that in nature. I've found some plants that are in this spiral format, and I've found some plants that follow the golden ratio, which is 1.618, and that's what follows pretty much anything that is on a balanced harmony. You'll notice that there's kind of like this middle point, almost like pi, but essentially it's allowing it to teeter back and forth. I mean, even in music we have something called harmonics that goes between different wavelengths, and then they come back together as nodes, and those nodes are what we know as our musical notes. Interestingly, about the musical notes, I found that it doesn't actually, we don't use all of them. We don't use all the notes because they don't all sound good. So there's some music notes that we basically don't think about, but they're still playable, but we don't necessarily use them in our music. So they could be in the negative state of things, or there's other things to talk about there, but let's move on. So we're creating this universal dimple dongle. Again, this is what it's going to look like. Let's take a look here, and I'll show you that it's a half bird, half fish. And why I call it a dimple dongle is because there's a dimple, like a dent, and a dongle, like something hanging out, because as that energy flows back and forth, it actually might get heavier and it might hang out, or it might get recessed, and it might say, well, this is indented, or think of like a black hole. For every black hole there's something called a white hole. And so if you kind of folded this whole entire thing in half here, they would fit together nicely. Now, I did come up with this concept because I observed animals here on Earth, and I said, well, if the universe was a living thing, what would it be? Because as above, so below. You have the microcosm, you have the macrocosm. You can look up what those things mean, but essentially there's the energy that's flowing here in our existence, in our 3D reality, is energy that once existed outside of our reality. So beyond the solar system, beyond the Milky Way galaxy, beyond our superclusters of galaxies, we actually can observe that there's different things that look and feel just like they do here on Earth. Now, that's not to be said that that's the only thing that exists. Obviously, there's things out there that may not have ever propagated or emanated, I don't know what the right word is, but into our reality here. I've talked about this in other videos, and I'm going to get some insight as to how this actually works. But my goal of observing this is simply to say, what creates this balance? What creates this harmony? So one of the things I research here with AI on Earth is there's different organisms that rely on each other, and so, like, let's say male and females, there's some birds and some fish that do not require male and female to mate. And so what a dimple dongle represents, or could represent, is the fact that if the universe started with one thing, like going back to here saying pi because it's kind of like the circle. It's like saying, hey, why do we have everything here as a circle and a perfect harmony of things? Maybe pi had something to do with that. So I kind of know that because I created something called the space-time elevator, which is a simulation of this wave propagation pattern, and I have many different versions of that so that I can observe it, and pi and the golden ratio are a very important part of that. As I did that, I kept getting more and more interested because it created visualizations that actually look like the patterns that we see here on Earth, or the patterns that we see in our space-time, in our galaxy. And so that's what I'm trying to illustrate here. So let's get on with it. So we're going to say that the dimple dongle basically folded upon itself, and then kind of created this structure. So I'll start drawing this here, and you can see I kind of went by the yin and the yang. Again, from my previous videos, you'll notice that I appreciate this shape. I appreciate this balance of duality and harmony. The word duality means that this side over here, which maybe is like a black hole or a dimple, as it were, like a dent, and then this one over here is like a dongle, like a bulge or something that's hanging out. And that is important to me because I'm trying to illustrate that in order for something to be happy, let's say it's going back and forth between this zero state of energy, you actually need to have something that can be compatible with itself. So maybe there's like, hey, I was here, now I'm here, now I'm here, now I'm here. So as it's reverberating or bouncing back and forth, it may have created these indentations or these elongated states of matter, as it were. As the universe grew up, obviously there was helium and then hydrogen atoms, helium being two-dimensional, hydrogen being three-dimensional, and those elements that we know here on Earth were part of the original union of harmony between this fluctuating state of matter. So I can't imagine how that might have happened. Scientists are saying it's a big bang. Other people are saying it's something that might have been created by something else outside of our universe. And so neither here nor there. Let's actually just imagine for a second that we can, and we'll complete the dimple dongle now. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and create these waves, just imagining that energy is flowing. We're just going to say, okay, as the state of matter is going, and this looks similar to what my space-time elevator looks like if you take a look at those examples online. But that's what I'm trying to get at here, is that this flowing state of energy is actually creating something that's beautiful. So you'll start to see kind of like a bird shape coming in here, and you'll say, wow, that's neat. He almost has this flowing state of energy. So then now if you go look at a bird, you might say, well, that actually looks like it's a harmony. Like, oh, he has two wings, or he has, feathers that flow one way or the other. But it's like, what caused those feathers to flow that way in the first place? Just try to think deeply about what's happening in the observations of nature, and you can understand this too. You can sort of figure out that there is something creating things, and we don't know for sure what it is, but it's a state of energy. It's something that's flowing back and forth between two different types of two different states, I guess. So anyway, so that's part of the dimple dongle. Let's keep going here, and I'll color in these other lines real quick, and we'll kind of get the shape that I had showed you before. So we're almost done. We're going to create the dimple dongle, and I'm going to show you the different parts of it here. So this allows me to flow the energy and visualize the fact that this thing is alive. It's doing something that is harmonious. It's actually coming together. So let's color in this beak. I mean, you saw that it looked kind of like a bird, hopefully earlier. And let's put some little feet on the bird here. And then let's put a tail. I think I used green before. We'll put like a little tail on the bird. Okay. And so if you observe nature, you'll start to see some things that are pretty harmonious. Let's go ahead and also color in the eye, and just kind of make that look kind of interesting there. We can use another color to, let's just use green here. And we'll say, this bird is living life. He's beautiful. And he's loving it. He's flowing. Maybe one day he gets lonely. And then he's like, well, wait, I wish I had a mate. So there's his fish bird counterpart. And we'll finish coloring him in as well. And this will complete what we're trying to do in terms of creating this harmonious structure. So, and there's Pi in there, don't forget about him. So everything that did exist still exists, okay? There really isn't anything that's wasted in the universe. That's the other point about this, is that as you observe things, you'll notice that there's actually a reuse of a lot of things, just like the here on Earth, where how we have four seasons. You have spring, summer, fall, and winter. That creates a state of renewal. Winter is like the renewal. Spring is like the new time. It's like maybe flowers are coming. Summer is like, well, now there's been so much love and so much appreciation for all the things that maybe there was a balance. Maybe something needed to, balance some things out, maybe with fire, maybe with other things, to try to create a harmony, to try to create something that allows that to exist in a balanced state of mind. So those things are important to think about. And here is our dimple dongle. So if you wanted to create that, you could, and you'll be able to see this bird, you'll be able to see this fish, and then you'll be able to imagine in your mind that they can't exist without each other. There's a duality. They're very harmonious with each other. They, one appreciates the water, one appreciates the air, and then there's the land in between. We could draw that here in between. We could say, here's the harmonious nature between everything, and it lives right where we are on Earth, for example. And you have trees and other things. So that's what you can imagine as you're drawing something like this. Thanks for listening to my video. Subscribe and like if you want to see some more things. Give me some information in the comments. I'm going to be repeating the categories and the subjects that I'm talking about, because I'm learning myself, and I'm trying to get a story together on what it is that I'm observing in nature. Thanks, everybody.